Hi, everyone. Welcome today to the Kinexions 15 preview. I'm Chris Reed, the Vice President of Solution Development with Kinexions. We're really excited about this year's content for Kinexions. Having been with the company for 17 years myself and been involved in a lot of Kinexions, I truly feel like this is going to be our best conference yet. So we're here to talk a little bit about some of the content in advance, and I'm pleased to be joined by our keynote speaker for the second day of the conference, Gary Hanifan. Gary is the Managing Director of Accenture Strategy and is both the North American lead for operations practice, as well as the global lead for the digital supply networks practice. So welcome, Gary. Thanks for taking time today to speak with us.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to the conference.
Yeah, as am I. So your keynote is really about questioning people to understand, I guess, if their supply chain is a growth engine. So I have a few questions for you about that topic. So the first one, you've spoken about the importance of companies developing new supply chain strategies. So tell me a little bit about what's wrong with their traditional approaches.
Well, it's really the death of the linear supply chain. It's moving into a digital supply network. So it's a network supply chain, and it's about being fit for purpose for the future, right? Being future proof. And what we found is through our research and through our interactions with our clients is that right now we're at a bit of a tipping point where they're not fit for purpose for growth. So if they try to go on the growth trajectory, they're not actually going to be able to achieve all the growth they want, and using that supply chain to achieve that growth at the corporate level. Nor if they're trying to go for efficiency, are the supply chains fit for purpose for efficiency. So this is really a tipping point of where the digital aspect of their supply chain needs to be infused into what was traditionally a linear supply chain, and the output of that is definitely a network supply chain.
Okay. So how would you define a successful supply chain that's transformed themselves into an engine for growth?
Yeah, that growth is absolutely the pinnacle of what we're trying to achieve, to be able to fuel that growth. And we've noticed that there's a predictable journey. We've actually seen this sort of pattern recognition, and the first step is visibility. It's being able to see end to end, not just within the four walls of your supply chain, but through to your customers and through your suppliers. Once you get that end-to-end visibility, it's amazing the kind of pattern recognition that the eye picks up on. People are able to go to the next step of that, which is to move from a reactive set of analytics, a reactive scorecard, to actually a predictive scorecard. And we've seen this, through time. It's a great thing where when you notice, you get that visibility and you say, oh, we've missed a shipment from one of our suppliers in China. You say, okay, well, what happened next? And we start to see that actually that was the root cause of a stock out in Des Moines. And so all of a sudden, as we move into the future, we start to say to ourselves, okay, what's happening in our supply chain from a predictive standpoint? Oh, we've missed another shipment in China. What's going to happen? Oh, I've seen this movie before. Here we go. We're going to stock out in Des Moines, which then leads us to being able to be very proactive and to stop that from happening before it starts. The third level of that, the third step, if you will, is to really get that networked aspect of the supply chains. So visibility, predictive analytics, really intelligent supply chains, and then network supply chains. And this is fantastic. So we said the death of the linear supply chain, but networks, I kind of think back to the movie The Graduate, right? They said, plastics are the wave of the future. It's like networks are the wave of the future. And so as we think about those networks, it's perfect for areas where we want to invest, and it's perfect for areas where we want to divest. So if we make one connection, say, into a supplier's network, we don't just get that pipe-to-pipe connection with that supplier. We get all of the network that supplier holds. Their suppliers, how they interact with the transportation companies, all of that through that one connection. So that's really important in the third step. And then the last one is it's this phrase, speed is the currency of the future. And as we look at that, it's about taking advantage of opportunities in the marketplace. So it could be opportunities for growth of a new product, or taking advantage of a marketplace opportunity that's only finite in time. Or it could be an opportunity to grow a service. So it doesn't always have to be product related, but it's taking advantage of a finite opportunity in time. That's really the 4 stages. So when we see someone who's actually achieved that growth engine, that predictable journey is that they've gone on those four steps.
Okay. You said before that many companies simply put digital processes on top of traditional practices, but they aren't really leveraging digital technology. So why is that such a pitfall or a bad approach?
Yeah, I call this the digital bandaid, right? We used to do some advertisements back in the day that had a Formula One open wheel race car stuck in a traffic jam, and that's kind of what this feels like for most of our clients, is when they take a piece of digital technology and they put it into an analog supply chain. So there's great examples of this. I've got one client in the consumer products business who is actually getting social media feeds that allow them to create a very highly accurate forecast, almost on a minute-by-minute basis. The problem is that despite that huge forecast accuracy and all this insight into the social media, they're still waiting 45 days for a product on a boat. So you can see that putting that digital band-aid, if you will, into that analog supply chain doesn't really get you the results. And that's why looking end to end is so important. But it's also not just about technology. There's a lot of things around process and people as well. I've got another client who was moving from an analog process. It was 10 steps, and they were putting in a digital process. And guess how many steps it had? It had 10. And it didn't need to, right? It absolutely didn't need to. I don't know if the answer was 2 or 3, but it certainly wasn't 10. And so we did some work on that to help them to reduce that and really understand where the answer could be. So the art of the possible from a process perspective and from an organization is huge. I mentioned networks previously, and this is something that one of Kinexions' own customers highlighted, which is we no longer need a demand planner, supply planner, capacity planner. Actually, what we need is a network planner. We need someone who's planning end to end and understands all of the trade-offs happening within that network. So I think it's definitely impacting our organizations as well.
Yeah, we see that a lot too with our product and how we connect and collaborate. You might not have one person that knows all the answers, but it's also too about how you connect people that do know those various components to effectively achieve, like what you're describing, this sort of a network, a planner type of a role.
Yeah.
Okay, you also talk about how leaders shouldn't fly blind. So maybe tell me a little bit about how that's accomplished.
Yeah, so this was back to that visibility. Visibility is absolutely the first step, and people are achieving this in different ways. We're doing a startup. We actually a joint venture, if you will, with GE called Teleris. And what it does is it does telemetry on aircraft and aircraft engines and the different component systems within an aircraft, so that we can move from reactive maintenance, which causes downtime and missed flights and missed shipments and things like that, to predictive maintenance, which can be done in a way that is off cycle and doesn't affect the transportation of people or goods. And so these sensors are working through a control tower to give visibility to the whole system of the aircraft, so that we are able to then move into predictive maintenance. Now, the uptime, the total usage time, if you will, for that aircraft goes up dramatically in those situations. So that's one example of a situation where visibility actually impacts the bottom line and the asset utilization of an aircraft. There's plenty others. I gave you that one earlier around a consumer products company looking for stock outs. These are starting to become the norm and visibility becomes that first step. If people are talking to me about my clients are saying, where should I start? Visibility is always where we suggest.
Yeah, that's an important thing. Like a transformation like this can often be a journey, right? That can look really daunting for people.
Yeah.
And I think it's always great to have a strategy where you can, lay out a roadmap of, what's step number one, what's step number two, and how you get to the end of that journey. So.
Yeah, I saw that quote from your CPO, this removes the "I don't know" excuse, right? And that's what visibility does. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to start using that. I'll probably use it at the conference. It removes the "I don't know" excuse.
Right. Okay. More of a personal question. Because a lot of us here at Kinexions are really passionate about supply chain. So tell me a little bit about what you love about supply chain so much.
Oh, wow. I sort of stumbled into this. I was studying 18th century philosophy in school and doing some M&A work when I first started my career. But what I found out is that about 2/3 of those business cases were made up of synergies on the supply chain side, and it became really intriguing to me. The other thing is Accenture defines supply chain operations very broadly. So I get to work on everything from sourcing and transportation, warehousing, forecasting, all the way through to returns management, and so it's really nice that I get to do that. The other thing that's cool about supply chain is it goes across every industry. Whether it's your physical product supply chain, or whether it's your financial supply chain, or it's your information supply chain or your talent supply chain, there's always something interesting for your organization. So I think I like it because it's so broad and it keeps me from getting bored. There's always something new to see.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I guess just to wrap up the questions I had, tell us quickly, what would be the one thing that you'd say is the reason why somebody shouldn't miss your presentation at Kinexions?
Yeah, I would say that digital supply networks are not optional. These are table stakes, right? And if you want to make sure that your supply chain isn't left behind, that you're future-proof, that you're ready for to be fit for purpose for your organization, and to turn your supply chain into a growth engine, then you would want to come to this keynote speaker.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for giving us a little bit of a preview of what your keynote will look like, and hopefully it inspired people to want to come and learn more. And I know I personally will be looking forward to seeing your presentation at Kinexions on Friday, the 6th. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
And just a reminder for those who are watching, you can receive a $100 discount on your registration for Kinexions by using the discount code GH100HANGOUT. So you can go to kinexions.kinexions.com and register. So thanks for everybody who joined us today to watch.